Hi guys, thanks for watching last time. We're back thanks to you guys. I'm super excited to talk about one of my favorite systems of all time today, the Turbografx-16. The Turbografx-16 first came out in Japan in 1987. It was called the PC-Engine. This is what it looked like in Japan, small and compact. We got the system 2 years later where it was called the Turbografx-16. Here's what it looked like over here. Same hardware, just a slightly bigger shell. Turbografx-16 was a joint venture between NEC and Hudson Soft. Now, while the name Turbografx-16 may imply a 16-bit system, actually only the GPU was 16 bits. It had an 8-bit CPU. So in many ways, it was like a PC with a slower CPU, but one with a high-end graphics card. Here's the original Turbografx-16 controller. It's pretty similar to the original NES controller layout. You got 2 fire buttons, but you've got these switches above the fire buttons where you can adjust for rapid fire. Quite handy for those shooters. When it came down to the 16-bit console wars, it really was only a battle between Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. The Turbografx was a distant third. It wasn't because they lacked a mascot. Nintendo had Mario, Sega had Sonic, and Turbografx had Bonk. I think what hurt the Turbografx was the fact that it only had one controller port. If you wanted to be social and actually play with some of your friends, you had to spend a little more cash, buy a Turbo Tap, which allowed up to 5 players to play at one time. Here's what the games looked like for the Turbografx. They were called Turbo Chips over here in the US and Hue cards over in Japan. They're about the size of a credit card, but a little bit thicker. Some of the memorable titles for the Turbografx were the Bonk series, the Super Star Soldier series, Legendary Axe, and the original Splatterhouse. A year after the Turbografx was launched, NEC released the Turbo CD. This makes the Turbografx one of the first systems to offer a CD-ROM attachment. It retailed for $399 at launch, didn't come with a pack-in, but what it did come with was a ginormous box.
Surprise!
Part of the reason the box was so big was that it came with this carrying case, so you could take the Turbo CD along to parties and stuff. Who wants to play some Bomberman? Anyways, one of the first games for the Turbo CD was Fighting Street, better known as Street Fighter. I think they made a couple sequels for it. Actually, Street Fighter 2 came out in Japan as a Hue card. It was the largest Hue card ever released at 20 megabits. If you had a Turbo Express or PC-Engine DT, you could actually play Street Fighter 2 on the go. Another strong title was Ys Book 1 and 2. Now, orchestral scores and voice acting may be commonplace today, but back in the day it was pretty revolutionary. Also, because of the CD's added space, you had these pretty incredible cutscenes. Unfortunately, third-party support for the Turbografx was pretty scarce over here in the States. However, in Japan, companies like Konami supported the system, and we got great titles like Castlevania Dracula X, Macross 2036, and Snatcher by Hideo Kojima of Metal Gear fame. In fact, in Japan, Nintendo was in first place, the PC-Engine Turbografx was in second place, and Sega was in distant third. There are a whole bunch of RPGs and shooters that never saw the light of day over here. But what's cool is there's no region coding on the system, so you can play a Japanese CD game on a US CD system. Many of the great US releases are available on Nintendo Wii's Virtual Console, so you can play Ys Book 1 and 2, the Bonk series, you can even play Castlevania Dracula X. Now, if you're not into emulation, other hardware options are the Duo systems, which were released later in the lifespan of the console. They combine the Turbografx and the Turbo CD into a sleek unit. Well, that's all the time we have for today, and remember, while emulators are cool, there really is no substitute for playing original games on original hardware. Thanks for watching, happy collecting.